Hello, I'm Dorothy Greer with Little Dot Designs and Creations, and if you're watching this, you are probably either a student in one of my crochet classes or you have just stumbled upon this video looking for some help. But anyway, this is video number 3 in a little series I have with some students that I'm actually tutoring individually right now, and we'll probably do some group sessions later. But anyway, this is just to help you get familiar with maybe a recap on some things we've already done, but to get you familiar with some new stitches. You can watch it a little bit before you come to class, or you might need to refer back to it and get a refresher if you forget what we went over. So far we've learned about holding the hook, which is the hardest part of crochet, holding the hook in the yarn in both hands. And you've learned to chain, you've learned to single crochet, and hopefully you're familiar with that. And today we're just going to briefly go over 2 new stitches, which is the half double crochet and the double crochet. And I'm going to rearrange my camera so that you can see my hands, and I'm just going to show you the technique for doing both of those stitches so that you can move on. I'm not going to go over a whole lot of things today. It's just simply the technique for these 2 stitches. Okay, let's get ready. Okay, here we are in front of the camera. I hope you can see, and I'll try to glance up once in a while to make sure my hands are in front of the camera. But when I'm looking at the camera, I don't do too well at showing you what I'm doing. So I'm going to try not to do that. But so far you've learned how to do a single crochet and have got familiar with that, which I have this little bitty swatch here of single crochet that I've made. And our next stitch is going to be a half double crochet, which is very easy. It's one of my favorite stitches. It's probably one of most people's favorite stitches because it's real easy to do. It's not a whole lot different than a single, and the result is good. Your work goes much faster, and it's not rough. It's not as rough as like a single crochet would be, and a double crochet is a little bit holy or airy, and the half double is just kind of in between all that, so most people really like it. Okay, first of all, if we were going to do another row of single crochet, as you know, we would chain 1 and we would turn and we would work back down the top of this. So I handed out a chart to you last week that showed how many chains you put before a row depending on what stitch you're getting ready to work. So we need to think about not what we just worked, but what we're getting ready to work, which is half double crochet. And if you look on that chart, it's going to tell you that before a half double crochet, you chain 2 before starting that row. So that's what we are going to do. And now when we get to the end of this whole class, I'm going to give you some options on some different things that you might try along the way. I'm just trying to teach everything kind of by the book, and so there are things that I do in real life that might be a little different, and I'll teach you some of those tricks at the end. So right now we're going to chain 2 because we're going to do half doubles. So chain 1 and chain 2 and turn your work. You always turn it that way, and your working string should always be behind your work. Now I'm not going into holding yarn because you should have already become familiar with that. We're going to skip these first 2 chains and work in the first actual single crochet. And the difference here is instead of just going in the front of this stitch like we would if we were working a single, we are going to yarn over before we go in there. So you're going to go behind your yarn, go into that first single just like you always do. Pull your working yarn through that single like you always do, but then you stop, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. Ordinarily in single crochet you'll have 2, so this is the difference. You now have 3 loops on your hook, and you're just going to get a hold of that yarn and pull it through all 3 of those loops. Oops, lost my little thing. Okay. And that's a half double. Let's do another one. I'm going to yarn over, go
in the front of my stitch all the way through both of those, the whole stitch, which is the two uh, top strings of the single crochet, the V. Okay, so I'll go through the whole stitch, grab my yarn and pull it through that stitch, and I've got 3 loops on my hook. Grab my yarn, pull it through all 3. Okay, I've just got a few, I just worked a little bitty swatch here, and I'm going to do that all the way across here. Behind my yarn, through my stitch, pulling my yarn back through just that stitch, and keeping my 3 loops on the hook, and then pulling my yarn through those, all 3 of those. Now I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to work the rest of this row in half double crochets. I'll try to get as close to the camera as I can. I knew there has to be some really marvelous video equipment out there to help with things like this, but I don't have it, so I'm just making do. And of course, if you were doing this in real life and you're really doing a project, you should be using your stitch markers on the first stitch of every row, which is very helpful. I'm not doing it here just because of time, but when you're learning, they're very helpful. There are many projects they're very helpful in. Okay, I'm on my last stitch. I'm working my last one. Okay, and that's the half double crochet. Now I'm going to show you one more stitch, and you don't have to practice this. You can practice that half double on and on, and you'll really like it. But I am going to show you the double crochet. It's like the full double crochet. Okay, and so if you look at your chart to find out how many chains you should do before the double crochet, it's going to tell you to do 3. So I'm going to do 3, and I find that you need to do them kind of tight or they'll be too big and floppy. So there's my 3, and I'm going to turn my work. Give me some more yarn here. Okay. And the difference here, you start out exactly like you do for the half double. You yarn over, you go into your stitch the same way, you pull your thread through exactly the same way, and you have the same 3 loops on your hook, just like you did on the last row. Here's the only difference in these 2 stitches. You get your yarn, and you only pull it through the first 2 loops. Then you will have 2 more on your hook. Then you get your yarn and pull it through those 2. So it's like a little 2-step process there. I guess that's why they call it a double crochet. And while I'm on that subject, you will find that crochet is, there are patterns out there in the world that are written in 2 different terms, English terms and the UK terms, which are very different. So this is a double crochet to us. This is a single crochet in UK terms. So be careful what you're reading. Just know what terms you're reading it in. Again, yarn over, go in the stitch, grab that yarn and pull it through. I've got my 3 loops. Pull it through 2 of the loops, and then pull it through the last 2 loops. That's all it is, and you'll find out that that's a pretty tall stitch. Singles are really compact. The half double is, a good middle of the road kind of stitch, and the double is a real tall stitch. Okay, yarn over, go under your stitch. You got 3. Man, I hope you can see this. Pull it through 2, pull it through 2. Okay, I'm going to work the rest of my little row and we'll be done. You may have to rewind this a few times as you're trying to make the stitches. will say if you're talking to other people who crochet and they're giving you their advice and telling you how to do stitches, there's nothing wrong with that. Or watching YouTube videos and learning different ways. Just remember, in this class, we're doing everything kind of basic. We're using basic thread, basic hook, and we're using what's, I guess, considered the basic, maybe old-timey ways of crocheting. But I think it's very important to learn a strong foundation of what the basics are before you advance on to other things. And you can pick up bad habits from other people, and I've got bad habits, and I'm trying real hard not to pass those on to you. And that's why I'm saying in the end, I might give you some tips and tricks, but I'm going to try not to pass on things that would hurt you. So again, we're at that end of the row, and if we were going to do another row of double crochet, we would chain 3 kind of tightly and turn, and then start right back over. Yarn behind the hook, go in your first stitch. Remember to always just skip those chains. You have 3 loops on your hook, go through 2 and go through 2. Okay, so that's all for this lesson, and I will be making a few more videos, and at some point we might learn the triple crochet, but we're also going to be learning, I think, next to work in a round. We're going to be making a circle, and then we'll be coming up with a simple project that you can actually make. Okay, that's it for today.